I started my real estate photography business over 10 years ago, and I wanted to make a video talking about the 3 biggest mistakes that I made when I was in that first stage of being a solo real estate photographer. So I, just like many of you, started my business with 0 clients and no idea what I was doing. And then I scaled it to where I now have a team, and I have a leadership team in place that runs the business for me. But what I'm specifically talking about in this video is those first stages when you're a solo operator and the 3 biggest mistakes I made then. And jumping into with number 1, I see this all the time and it messed me up, but you have to make sure you match your business model with the type of media you're producing. What I mean by that is, like, when you first start shooting real estate, or at least what I did, is I didn't know what I was doing at all. So I just watched some YouTube videos on how to shoot real estate, and I went and did my best. And I shot, standard HDR. I used pretty cheap equipment. I didn't really know what I was doing, and it produced photos that were really pretty good enough where, clients were happy. I started getting a ton of referrals, and I was working on getting clients. Well, my business grew, and clients were never complaining about the photo. But then I made the mistake that a lot of people do once they spend a little bit of time in the media industry, or if they're coming from a photography background. But once you've been doing photography, for a little bit, you kind of get this bug too, and you start going, well, this is how I've been shooting for a while, and it's how I've been shooting since I first started. But maybe in order to grow my business, I need to increase my quality. And I'm not saying that's never the answer. The mistake that I'm saying, that I made at least, is I started comparing my work to a guy named Mike Kelly, who's, if you've heard of him, he's like a world-class architectural photographer. His work is crazy good. They're just awesome images. And so I started trying to model what he was doing. And I got frustrated with it, and it took me forever, and I spent a ton of time because I was like, wait a second, I'm literally taking, instead of 30 seconds to take a photo, it's now taking minutes per photo, right? And in some cases it took much longer. And what I didn't really model from Mike Kelly is, while I modeled how he was shooting, or I tried to do it, it was much harder than I was able to do, at least in that amount of time. I didn't model his pricing. And that was the biggest mistake. He was charging $1,500+ per photo. And these are architectural photos, completely different industry. But what I did, in the sake of trying to get better quality and thinking that was gonna grow my business, I tried to pair my pricing, a volume model, with his way of shooting. And it obviously didn't work, and it just caused me a lot of frustration. And so that's a pretty extreme example of that. But most people do that in a small way in their business. They're getting clients, they're growing fast, and they're like, what's gonna make me grow faster is if I spend more time trying to improve my quality. And sometimes it does, but it's not the main factor. And the main point I'm trying to make here with this first mistake is, oh look, I hate it when I'm filming and people go by. There they are. Anyway, the first mistake is make sure your business model matches your creative model, how you're shooting. So if you're gonna be doing photos that take all day, charge reasonable for it. If you're doing volume photos, you can charge volume prices and get more clients. That's my model. My goal is to make the most money as possible. And so for me, the volume model in real estate media works. And that's what I teach. It's what my channel is all about. So just careful with that. It's not a mistake to go super high end. I mean, it is if you're in an area where there's not a lot of high end stuff, and you have to, there are some business models that just work better. I think the volume model is awesome. It works in most markets, and even the really high end realist or architectural photographers, they usually, sure, they get paid more per shoot, but they don't do very many shoots. So you have to be careful to realize that they actually might make less money in a lot of cases. So anyway, that's mistake number 1. Make sure your business model and your creative model match. The second mistake is, when I first started, most people think of photography as a way to not make much money. Like, you hear about all these starving artists, and you don't have big goals for the industry. And, I think that's a shame. When I was first starting, I didn't really know that there were real estate photographers making $20K plus a month. And so I thought I was doing great when I was doing like $3K a month. And here's the problem with that. I didn't spend a lot of time on dog just messed me up too. I didn't spend a lot of time on activities that actually would grow my business. I just spent time maintaining the business. So I'd go to shoots, I'd deliver photos, but I kind of backed off the client acquisition, and that was the mistake. Set your goal. If you're a new real estate photographer and your goal is just to be solo, maybe you want to scale in the future, but look at 20K a month and revenue is your goal. You can totally get there solo. Sure, it's going to take a lot of work. Sure, it's not going to happen overnight, but man, I thought I was a big shot when I was doing $4,000 a month. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially when you're first getting started, but I would have pushed harder if I knew what was possible. And so the mistake is telling you, the mistake that I made was not pushing harder. And the way I'm trying to solve that is by telling you that 20K is possible, and I want you to shoot for it. And I want you to really spend time on the client acquisition piece. You got to go do your shoots, but you also got to block out time on your calendar to do client acquisition. Look, that's a really old boat. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. That's cool. You'll have to spend time to do client acquisition to actually grow your business. And then the third mistake, and this one, I want to say it carefully because I don't want you to think, oh, Eli, you're saying that because you train people and you have a coaching business. But the biggest mistake of them all I made was I thought there were photography businesses and other businesses. And so I spent the first 5 years not reading virtually any business books, not listening to podcasts, not watching YouTube videos. And that was really stupid. And the reason I did that is because I thought that like the other business stuff didn't apply because somehow photography businesses are different, but all businesses, they have exactly the same parts. It's sales, it's operations, it's fulfillment, it's, you know, people management, it's learning how to work with like it's the same stuff, right? And you can learn that from somebody who had a cement truck business and apply it to your real estate media business. And so don't be short-sighted like me and just really kind of dumb and think that it doesn't apply. Like when I started being willing to learn from others, first person I ever listened to was Gary Vee. And I watched some of his stuff and I was like, this is crazy, it applies to my business. And I started reading other business books and like my businesses grew faster, because I was willing to learn from others. There's a Tony Robbins quote I like, which is a book is a way you can basically sum up or learn a decade of someone's life in an afternoon, because you can read a book in an afternoon, right? And so, you know, as much as you can, prioritize learning in your business and go out of your way to, you know, listen to audiobooks. When you're driving as a real estate photographer, it's a great time, and I missed out on so much of that. So listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts, join coaching programs, go to events, like really dive in. I do that myself. I don't just have a coaching business. I'm also, you know, a big believer in coaching. I actually, at the time of filming this video today, I just sent someone $10,000 to spend 3 hours with them. And I get to ask them a ton of questions about their business. And so that's been the biggest unlock for me, because life's just too short to try to figure out all the mistakes on your own. That's why, you know, my first 5 years of growth, a lot of people, not most, but a lot of people that really put in diligent effort can do that in a year. Less, honestly, some of the time. So this is my three biggest pieces of advice if you're, you know, in the solo stage, whether you're at $0 or you're solo. Like, try to avoid those mistakes, and you'll get to the point where either you got 20K a month as a solo photographer and you want to stop there and just enjoy it, or you want to scale. Either one's great. If you want help with either, starting your business with our launch program, where you already have a real estate media business, you want to make it better, put systems into place, maybe hire people. We have Forward as well. So there'll be a link somewhere below where you can chat with my team about, you know, what we can do and make sure that what we do is actually a good fit for you. So check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.